Hey, welcome back to Bite Size Bible Lies. I love this one. We got a fun one today. We're going to be going to 1 Samuel 21. A lot of you may be familiar with this story. The long and short of it is this is the story where David goes to a temple when him and his companions are hungry. He's on a Sabbath, and they take this consecrated bread. That they don't steal it, they ask for it. So here it is. I'm just gonna read right here. Then David came to Nob to Ahimelech the priest, and Ahimelech came trembling to meet David and said to him, "Why are you alone and no one with you?" David said to Ahimelech the priest, "The king has commissioned me with the matter and has said to me, no one is to know anything about the matter. Blah, 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 blah. What do you have on hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread or whatever can be found." The priest answered David and said, "There's no ordinary bread on hand, but there is consecrated bread. If only the young men have kept themselves from women." So as long as nobody's been doing it recently, they can eat the bread. So they agree that they have not been desecrating their bodies, and so they took consecrated bread and ate it. Now that's the end of this story. There's some more that happens with these characters, and most notably, Mr. Ahimelech, the priest here, has a son named Abiathar. But he's not in this story. Abiathar, he may have been present, but it's not spelled out here. The reason I like this one is because Jesus doesn't seem to know this story. So in Mark chapter 2, Jesus is retelling this story, and it says, "It happened that he was passing through the grain fields on the Sabbath. His disciples began to make their way along while picking the heads of grain. The Pharisees were saying to him, 'Look, why are they doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath?' And he said to them, 'Have you never read of what David did when he was in need and his companions became hungry? Now how he entered the house of God in the time of Abiathar, the high priest, and ate the consecrated bread, which is not lawful for anyone to eat except the priest.'" Can you spot a problem? The priest in this story is not named Abiathar. I'm not saying that Jesus was wrong, but perhaps the author of the book of Mark, by the way, this is Mark chapter 2, 23, maybe the author of Mark just got it wrong. Maybe he got a little confused, or maybe Jesus got it wrong in the first place. One way or the other, this story is goofy, and Jesus was just flatly wrong about the facts of this story. Now, I did take the time to go to gotquestions.org to try and see what sort of apologetics are out there. You didn't have to go here. I'm aware of the apologetics already. But it recognizes that Jesus is just kind of wrong about who's in the story. But here's the proposed workarounds that it gives you. And what's happening here, I want you to really realize it, because you can do whatever amount of mental gymnastics you want. You can make up whatever additional details you want to add to these stories to try and make them make sense. Like, oh no, it didn't really happen this way. It actually, what was going on was that, Jesus, he went to Egypt and went to Jerusalem, but they did it at a different time. And it was, right. You can add all of this stuff to these stories. But why? Why would you? Because the raw text doesn't make sense. And I don't know how many of these videos that I have to make before you will see what I see, which is that this book doesn't make sense. You don't have to make excuses for it. It's just wrong about stuff. Okay. And that's fine. Again, I said in my first video, I'll probably say it in every video. If you want to believe in God, that's totally fine. The issue that I have is that the idea that this book is just factually right in every circumstance is silly. So anyway, here's what gotquestions.org has to say, and I want you to really feel how hard these are stretching. Well, it says, first of all, Abiathar was the son of Ahimelech. Here's a different story from a different book that makes that connection, right? It's possible that both men took part in the high priestly duties. We see a similar arrangement at the time of Eli, when Eli's son seemed to have shared his duties. Okay, so maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe it was Jesus secretly knew that Abiathar also was the high priest, and so he just said it that way. Or maybe it's because Abiathar was more closely associated with David than Ahimelech was. They were homies, which to me just reads like, I mean, yes, Abiathar is more of a character in David's story, and therefore is probably the name that more people would know, right? And, you know, these are the stories of a nation that are being passed down, so everybody should know these stories, talking about them in synagogue. And, like, yeah, it makes sense that that name would be the first one out of Jesus' mouth or out of the author's pen, because that's the name that they know. That doesn't mean that Jesus is correct. He's still wrong, okay? So I don't know what we're doing here. And then this says, well, Abiathar being present in Nob when David visited the tabernacle, allegedly, is called the high priest in anticipation of his future title. Because what happened is his dad got murdered, okay? And then he became high priest. He got a field promotion to high priest. And so they're trying to say that, well, maybe that's really what happened. It's just like Jesus knew that one day he would become high priest, so he became high priest. Folks, that's not what happened here. This clearly he's just wrong about the details. It's really not that hard. I don't know why we have to, like, have this discussion. Okay, bye.